Okay, so let's talk about altitude. So again, where's this? Yeah, and I hope the beaches don't no longer look like this, but who knows? Like someone said on Thursday, it was still crowded there. I'm like, oh man. But okay, so here we have this guy, and he's like breathing at sea level, right? Here in sunny Hawaii. So his alveolar partial pressure is around 400 millimeters mercury. So remember, our atmospheric partial pressure of oxygen is around 160 millimeters mercury. So which way will the oxygen flow if we just talk about diffusion? Yeah, so again, high to low. So again, we have the oxygen, higher concentration of oxygen here. So this is how you're going to oxygenate and increase the oxygen concentration here, just through partial pressure that adds to the oxygenation inside your lungs. Yep. All right, so, and again, in happier times, well, I'm glad they didn't outright cancel the Olympics, but I'm glad they were sane and said, hey, holding it this year is a really bad idea. But Olympic athletes, where is the U.S. Olympic training complex? In Colorado Springs, right? So atmospheric partial pressure is lower, but which way will the oxygen go? Into the lungs or back into the environment? Well, even though it's less, the partial pressure is less than Hawaii's, it's still greater than the alveolar partial pressure inside your lungs. So you still get oxygen moving into your lungs. Yep, everyone's getting it right. Let's see that. Now, here we have, well, what was formerly called Mount McKinley in Alaska, now it's called Denali. So at the summit, the atmospheric partial pressure is 74 millimeters mercury. Which way will the oxygen go? Oh, to answer Jennifer's question, so it does still go to the lung, but yes, you're getting less oxygen with each breath than you would be if you train here in Hawaii. Yes, so again, now Denali's atmospheric partial pressure is less. So every time you breathe out at the summit of Mount McKinley slash Denali, you're going to lose a bit of oxygen. Why? Again, because things move from high to low pressure. Now, so let's talk about our question. Why do they call it the death zone? So here at Everest, so say he makes it to the summit, and yes, he's still shirtless, and let's say he survives hypothermia, even though and he makes it all the way to the summit. So at the very summit of Mount Everest, the atmospheric partial pressure of oxygen is 48 millimeters mercury. Which way will the oxygen go with each breath? It will go out into the environment. So at the summit, this is why they call it the death zone. It doesn't matter how fast you breathe, it doesn't matter how deep you breathe, just by the partial pressure difference, every breath you take is going to rob your lungs and body of more and more oxygen. This is why when you climb those really high mountains, why you need supplemental oxygen. By the thinner air and less atmospheric pressure, if you have less pressure, every time you breathe, you're going to be losing oxygen. Yep, so he's going to die eventually, right? So this is why they call it the death zone. Every breath is actually slowly killing you. He's not going to die immediately, but the longer he stays up there, he is slowly dying. So again, Honolulu, our partial pressure of oxygen is, our air is quality is great, and we also have a high partial pressure of oxygen. But the higher you get up, notice that the partial pressure of oxygen is getting less, and just like my candy example, even though the ratio of oxygen is still the same, as you get higher, as you lose air pressure, you're also losing molecules of oxygen. So again, the higher you go, the higher altitude, the less pressure, the less oxygen you're getting with each breath. How long, what was it? Oh, I know they said, I was watching this movie, I think it was called Everest. I think they do say how long you can actually stay up there. But yeah, I know you can't camp overnight up there. There's no camps there because 24 hours up there is like, you're going to, again, even if you're sleeping, you're probably going to fall asleep permanently if you try to sleep up there at the summit at Everest without supplemental oxygen. All right. So again, at Colorado Springs, you do have less oxygen compared to sea level, but this is why people train up there. Because why? Remember that hormone called EPO? So remember erythropoietin? So what stimulates EPO production, or what does EPO do? Well, EPO stimulates the production of red blood cells, and red blood cells are the ones that carry oxygen. So this is why we have our training center, at least in the US, at Colorado Springs. If you train up there, due to having less oxygen, this tells your body, oh, maybe you're not getting enough oxygen. Maybe I want to produce more red blood cells so I can actually transport more oxygen because I'm getting less oxygen. So it's a way of actually naturally inducing EPO production and red blood cell production. Yep, low O2 stimulates EPO. That's what we call hypoxia stimulating erythropoietin. So generally higher heart rate. So actually, I mean, depending cardiac output, but I think they would actually, we had, or my students from Colorado, they said when they actually moved here and actually started attending college here in Hawaii, they said they could run for hours, but heart rate, it also depends on things like your cardiovascular tone, fitness, and whatnot. So yeah, higher heart rate is probably going to be, yeah, it's a physiological response. Yep, so yeah, if anything, I don't know, if I have to look at this public health records, but Colorado and Hawaii are the states with the lowest rate of obesity and also high rates of physical activity and outdoor sports. So imagine like their heart rates are pretty low. And Colorado people, at least the ones I met, they're pretty chill. Alright, so you've probably seen this, or at least, again, happier times before all the gyms closed, but you might have seen somebody wear this. And why are they trying to do that? So they're trying to restrict their breathing and induce hypoxia. In theory, that should cause them to produce more EPO and produce more red blood cells, increasing their cardiovascular capabilities, right? So, does this actually work? Well, the thing about this, so I actually looked this up. So again, the theory that behind this kind of like, yeah, this mask, so does it actually cause EPO production? Does it actually cause red blood cell production? Well, think about it this way. If you're training and living in Colorado Springs, you're up there 24 hours. Are you worrying people who train using that mask using it 24 hours? They're using it maybe what, 1-2 hours out of 24 hours in their of their day. So what do we see? Well, we see their hemoglobin when they have the mask on. It's not really that different. And hematocrit. So remember, hematocrit talks about the formed elements, how many cells you have in your blood. And remember, 99.9% of the cells in your blood are red blood cells. So what do we see with their hematocrit? Their hematocrit with the mask, no real difference between that and the people who didn't use the mask. So what do we see? It's not stimulating the production of red blood cells or hemoglobin. You do see a difference in VO2 max, so the maximum oxygen consumption. I think if you take it advanced KRS courses, so they did see an increase in tidal volume in a little bit. But the thing is, like, it's not working like altitude training. So they often call it altitude training masks, but they do see a difference, but more in the mechanics of breathing rather than actual hematocrit, red blood cells, and EPO. So yeah, it's not really an altitude training mask. It's more of a resistance. It's like breathing with a restrictive or obstructive, actually, lung disease. Yeah, so again, those masks, do they really work? Well, they kind of work, but not in the way that they're advertised. Okay, so